February 6th, 1978, Boston, Massachusetts. A Monday morning, ordinary. The sky is gray, but gray is normal for February in New England. People drink coffee in their kitchens. Cars warm up in driveways. Radios play the news. The weatherman mentions a storm coming, but storms always come in winter. This is New England. You live with snow the way you live with taxes. Don Kent, meteorologist at WBZ Radio, looks at his charts. He sees something forming off the Carolina coast, a low-pressure system, not unusual. He mentions it on air. "We might see some snow tonight, folks. Keep an eye on it." No one panics. No one should. Not yet. Boston in 1978 has 600,000 people. The metro area holds 3 million. The economy runs on manufacturing, shipping, education, and fishing. Technology is simple. Rotary phones, analog weather satellites, snowplows that are good but not miraculous. Most families have one car. Most houses have oil heat. Most people trust that the city works, that roads stay open, that help comes if you need it. That trust would break in the next 33 hours. The winter of 1977 to 1978 had already been brutal. January brought record cold. Temperatures stayed below freezing for weeks. The ground was frozen solid. Lakes and ponds had thick ice. People were tired of winter, tired of shoveling, tired of heating bills that kept climbing. February 6th felt like just another gray day in a gray season, but the atmospheric conditions brewing offshore were anything but ordinary. Two low-pressure systems were about to collide in a way meteorologists rarely see. One moving up from the Carolinas, pulling Gulf moisture, another diving south from the Great Lakes, carrying Arctic air. When they met off the New England coast, they would create a meteorological bomb. New England knows winter. Blizzards are not strangers, but nor'easters are different. They are not just snowstorms. They are meteorological monsters that form when cold air from Canada collides with warm, moist air from the Atlantic. That collision creates a low-pressure system that spins counterclockwise, pulling energy from the ocean like a turbine. Most nor'easters pass quickly, 12 hours, 24 at most. They dump snow and they move on. But the blizzard of 1978 does not move on. It parks itself over New England and stays there for about 33 hours without stopping. Continuous snow, continuous wind, continuous pressure. The technical term people use for storms that intensify this fast is bombogenesis. The pressure fell rapidly as the system deepened, and the wind and snow intensified with it. That kind of rapid intensification creates explosive wind and precipitation. Meteorologists at National Weather Service offices across New England watch their instruments with growing alarm. The computer models, primitive by today's standards, showed something unusual. The storm was not just intensifying, it was stalling. A high-pressure system over the Atlantic was blocking its eastward movement, forcing it to sit and spin over New England like a drill. Barry Burbank later said they expected a major storm, but not the exact intensity and not how long it would stall. Early forecasts were far lower than what Boston and some suburbs ultimately received. Light snow begins by mid-morning, then intensifies through the afternoon as winds increase and visibility drops. By 4 o'clock, the snow thickens. The wind picks up. Traffic slows on Route 128, the highway circling Boston. By 5, it's crawling. By 6, it stops. Martha Travis Cook is driving home from work with her friend Renee. Years later, Martha recalled the drive in an interview. They're on Route 128 southbound. The snow is heavy now, coming sideways. The windshield wipers struggle. Other cars move at 5 miles per hour. Then 3, then 0. "We should have left earlier," Renee says. "It's just snow," Travis Cook replies. She's wrong. The decision to leave work at the normal time would trap thousands. In 1978, workplace culture was different. Bosses expected employees to stay until 5. Leaving early for weather felt like weakness. Schools stayed open. Stores stayed open. The assumption was that New England could handle snow. Route 128, the major highway encircling Boston, became a death trap. The road curves, rises, and dips through terrain that creates natural wind tunnels. As snow accumulated and wind accelerated, visibility dropped to zero. Cars following too closely rear-ended each other. Trucks jackknifed. Within hours, the highway transformed from transportation artery to frozen parking lot. The Massachusetts State Police responded to hundreds of calls. Stranded motorists, accidents, medical emergencies. But the troopers themselves got stuck. Their cruisers, despite winter tires and experience, couldn't move through the deepening snow. Radio dispatchers listened helplessly as troopers reported their own vehicles disabled. One trooper radioed, "I'm stuck at mile marker 23. Visibility 0. Can't move forward or back. I've got 4 stranded civilians with me. We're going to wait it out." They waited more than 30 hours. At 7 p.m., Don Kent goes back on air. His voice is different now. Urgent. Clipped. "This storm is intensifying faster than predicted. We're looking at 12 to 18 inches overnight. Winds gusting to 50, 60 miles per hour. If you're not home, get home now." But thousands of people are already trapped. On Route 128, on E95, on the Mass Pike. Cars stall, engines flood, snow piles around tires, around doors, around hoods. People sit in their cars with the heater running, watching the gas gauge drop, watching the snow rise. Martha, Travis, Cook, and Renee have been stuck for 2 hours. The car in front hasn't moved. The car behind is invisible. The world is white. The wind shakes the car like a toy. "How much gas do we have?" Renee asks. Travis Cook checks. "Half a tank." "Enough," she says. She hopes she's right. The danger of staying in a car during a blizzard is real and immediate. Carbon monoxide poisoning kills silently when snow blocks the exhaust pipe. People running heaters in buried cars don't realize the deadly gas is backing up into the cabin until they become drowsy, confused, unconscious. 14 people died of carbon monoxide poisoning while running engines in snowbound vehicles after drifting snowblock tailpipes, including along the Route 128 and I-95 corridor. People were found slumped over steering wheels, engines still running, snow piled to the windows. They thought they were staying warm. They were dying. Others faced a different calculation: stay in the car and risk freezing or poisoning, or abandon the car and walk through whiteout conditions where you can't see 3 feet ahead, where wind chill makes it feel like 30 below zero, where one wrong turn means you're lost in a frozen wilderness that used to be a suburb. Some walked, some made it to houses where strangers took them in, some didn't. Bodies were found days later in snowbanks, in ditches, 100 yards from safety they couldn't see. By midnight, Boston has 12 inches of snow. By 2 a.m., 18. By dawn, 24. But it's not just the snow, it's the wind. Bruce Schwegler, meteorologist at WBZ-TV, watches the anemometer readings. Gusts of 70 miles per hour, 80, 90. That wind doesn't just blow snow, it weaponizes it. Snowflakes become pellets. Visibility drops to zero. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You can't breathe without inhaling ice. The wind finds every crack in every building, every gap in every coat. It doesn't care if you're inside or outside, it finds you. And then there's the water. The wind speed recorded at Logan Airport peaked at 79 miles per hour, with higher gusts. But the coastal measurements were even more extreme. Winds reached 79 miles per hour at Logan Airport, 93 miles per hour in Chatham, and a gust of 111 miles per hour was reported near Scituate. The storm even produced reports of thundersnow, thunder, and flashes inside the whiteout. Multiple people reported seeing flashes of light through the whiteout, hearing thunder that seemed impossible during a snowstorm. The atmospheric instability was so extreme that the storm generated its own electricity. The sound of the wind became a psychological weapon. It howled like a living thing. It shrieked through power lines. It rattled windows so violently people thought the glass would shatter. Children cried. Adults prayed. The noise was relentless, hour after hour, a reminder that nature was in complete control. Nor'easters don't just bring snow, they bring storm surge. The wind pushes the ocean inland. High tide amplifies it. The moon doesn't care about your emergency. It pulls the water higher. Astronomically high tides help drive 4 successive flooding, high tides during the storm, pushing storm surge into coastal neighborhoods and compounding the disaster. In Portland, Maine, the tide gauge reached about 14.17 feet, a record level associated with the storm. In Providence, Rhode Island, the water comes through seawalls, through streets, through basements. Homes on the coast take waves like ships. Windows shatter, walls crack. People flee upstairs with water rising below them. It's not a snowstorm anymore. It's a siege. Snow from above, water from the side, wind from everywhere. The coastal flooding was catastrophic in ways that compounded the snow emergency. In Revere, just north of Boston, entire neighborhoods flooded. Seawater mixed with snow created a toxic slush that froze solid when temperatures dropped. Homes that survived the water damage then dealt with burst pipes when heating systems failed. In Hull, a peninsula south of Boston exposed to the full force of the Atlantic, waves crashed over seawalls and through first-floor windows. Residents evacuated to second floors, then to attics as water kept rising. Some climbed onto roofs in sub-zero temperatures, waving flashlights, hoping someone would see. The Coast Guard tried to respond, but their boats couldn't navigate in 30-foot seas. Helicopters couldn't fly in zero visibility and hurricane-force winds. The people trapped in coastal homes were on their own. One Hull resident, interviewed years later, described watching his neighbor's house collapse. The waves just kept hitting it. You could hear the wood cracking over the wind. Then the whole front wall came down and the ocean just poured in. We never found them. Coastal flooding killed people, and some victims were not recovered until later in the season. Some bodies weren't recovered until spring, when the sun rises, if you can call it sunrise through the whiteout. New England is paralyzed. Route 128 is a parking lot of buried cars. Thousands of vehicles were abandoned. Drivers either walked to nearby houses or stayed in their cars, praying. Some made it, some didn't. The Massachusetts Turnpike is impassable. I-95 is a graveyard. Logan Airport is shut down. No flights in, no flights out. Amtrak stops running. Buses don't move. The Boston subway tries to operate, but service broke down in places, and some passengers were stranded in the cold for long stretches. Governor Michael Dukakis wakes up in his Brookline home. He looks outside. He can't see his driveway. He can't see the street. He can't see anything. His chief of staff, Lou Murray, calls. "Governor, this is bad. Really bad." Dukakis knows what needs to happen. Something no governor has done before. He's going to close the state. Dukakis later described that morning as surreal. "I couldn't see the house across the street. I couldn't see my own car. The wind was so loud you had to shout to be heard indoors. And I'm thinking, I'm the governor. I'm supposed to fix this. How do you fix this?" The phone calls started coming in. Emergency services overwhelmed. Hospitals running out of supplies. Ambulances stuck. Fire trucks unable to respond. Police stations losing power. The normal machinery of government had stopped functioning. One call came from a hospital administrator. "Governor, we have critical patients. We're running low on oxygen. We need supplies, but nothing can get through." Another from a police chief. "We've got officers stranded. We've got civilians dying. We can't help them. We need the National Guard." Dukakis made the call to activate the Massachusetts National Guard, but even that wasn't simple. Guard members couldn't get to their armories. Equipment was buried. The military, with all its resources, was as paralyzed as everyone else. By Tuesday morning, Michael Dukakis orders all non-emergency vehicles off Massachusetts roads. Not a suggestion, a shutdown. It's an extreme measure, unprecedented, but the alternative is worse. More people trapped, more rescues impossible, more deaths. In Connecticut, Governor Ella T. Grasso does the same. She doesn't hesitate. Close the state, she orders. Highways shut down. Borders become meaningless. You can't get in. You can't get out. In Rhode Island, Governor J. Joseph Gary tries to manage the crisis, but gets stuck himself. His car gets trapped in snow. He has to abandon it and walk to find shelter. Even the governor isn't immune. The storm doesn't care about your title. Ella T. Grasso's decision to close Connecticut was even more dramatic than Dukakis's. She ordered state police to block highway entrances. She mobilized every available plow and National Guard unit. She went on television stations that still had power and said something governors don't say: do not leave your homes. Do not try to drive. If you do, you will die. The bluntness shocked people, but it saved lives. Grasso's actions became a case study in crisis management. She didn't sugarcoat. She didn't minimize. She told the truth loudly and clearly. And because she did, people listened. In Rhode Island, Governor Gary's experience became emblematic of the storm's reach. Even the state's chief executive, with security, with resources, with warning, got trapped. His car stalled on 95. His security detail tried to dig out. They couldn't. Gary and his staff abandoned the vehicles and walked to a nearby house where a family took them in. The governor of Rhode Island spent the night of February 7th in a stranger's living room, wrapped in borrowed blankets, drinking instant coffee, just another stranded citizen. When reporters asked him about it later, Gary said, "It was humbling. If it could happen to me with all the resources of the state, it could happen to anyone." That's when I understood how serious this was. When you ban travel, you strand people. When you strand people in a blizzard, they die. Hypothermia takes 30 minutes if you're wet. Carbon monoxide poisoning takes 1 hour if your tailpipe is blocked by snow. Heart attacks spike from shoveling. Fires break out from overloaded heaters. The National Guard deploys. Snowmobiles, skis. Helicopters try to fly, but the wind is too strong. Visibility too low. They crash. They abort. They wait. On the coast, the situation is worse. Boats are torn from moorings, smashed against docks, against rocks, against each other. Fishing crews are stranded offshore. Coast Guard stations report vessels in distress but can't reach them. Waves are 30 feet. The wind is still screaming. Captain Frank Quirk Jr., a Salem Harbor pilot, answers a call to assist the tanker Global Hope. He heads into the blizzard aboard the pilot boat Can Do with 4 other men: Charles Bucko, Kenneth Fuller, Norman Curley, and Donald Wilkinson. In towering seas and hurricane-force gusts, the Can Do loses power and disappears. All 5 men die. Divers later locate the wreck off Salem. Not everyone is that lucky. The Coast Guard recorded over 3,000 distress calls during the storm. Most couldn't be answered. The Guard's boats were powerful, designed for heavy seas, but even they had limits. Visibility near zero. Ice forming on every surface, adding weight that could capsize a vessel. Crews working in conditions where exposure on deck meant frostbite in minutes. One Coast Guard cutter, the Cape George, attempted a rescue off Cape Cod. The boat they were trying to reach, a fishing trawler with 4 men aboard, was taking on water, engine dead, drifting toward rocks. The Cape George crew launched a small boat to cross the final distance. The small boat flipped in the surf. The crew survived but had to be pulled back aboard. The trawler's crew perished when their boat hit the rocks. The Coast Guard's official report listed the rescue as attempted unsuccessful due to sea conditions exceeding operational safety limits. Translation: we tried, we failed, people died. In Salem, a civilian named Melrose Cole sits at his radio. Amateur radio operator, ham radio enthusiast, the kind of person others ignore until the world breaks. When phone lines go down, when police radios overload, when the Coast Guard can't coordinate, Melrose Cole becomes the voice. He relays distress calls. He connects rescuers with victims. He stays on the radio for 30 hours straight, no sleep, running on coffee and adrenaline. He doesn't wear a badge. He doesn't carry a gun. He just has a radio and the knowledge of how to use it. Sometimes that's all you need to save lives. Ham radio operators across New England became the communication backbone during the blizzard. When commercial power failed, they ran on backup generators and batteries. When phone lines went down, they relayed messages between family members, between emergency services, between isolated towns. Melrose Cole's station became a hub. His radio became known throughout the emergency response network. Police would call him, "We have a medical emergency at this address. Can you reach anyone nearby?" Cole would broadcast, find another ham operator in that neighborhood, relay the message, coordinate a response. He helped locate stranded ambulances. He coordinated snowmobile teams. He relayed messages from people trapped in their homes to hospitals, to power companies, to family members desperate for information. When it was over, the governor's office sent Cole a commendation. He didn't frame it. He put it in a drawer. Years later, in interviews, he downplayed his role. "I just did what anyone would do. I had a radio. People needed help." You use what you have. But what anyone would do saved dozens of lives. The snow doesn't stop. 27 inches in Boston, 27.6 in Providence. Parts of Massachusetts hit 40 inches. 40, that's higher than most car roofs, higher than most basement windows, higher than you can shovel without suffocating from the effort. The wind keeps blowing. 70, 80, 90 miles per hour in gusts, hurricane force at times with higher gusts along the coast. Drifts pile 15 feet high. Streets disappear. Landmarks vanish. The city becomes a white labyrinth. You can't tell where the sidewalk ends and the road begins. You can't tell where your house is. Everything is the same. White, cold, deadly. Power lines snap under ice. Transformers explode. 500,000 people lose electricity. No heat, no light. Temperatures drop to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chill makes it feel like 20 below. People huddle in their homes. Some burn furniture to stay warm. Some crowd into one room with everyone they love, waiting, hoping. Travis, Cook, and Renee are still in the car on Route 128. 30 hours now. The engine is off. The gas is gone. They're wrapped in coats, in blankets pulled from the trunk. They can't feel their fingers. They can't feel their toes. Outside, they hear voices. Snowmobiles. National Guard. Someone knocks on the window. "We're here to get you out," they cry. Not from the cold, from relief. The official snowfall totals, measured at official weather stations, tell only part of the story. Boston's Logan Airport recorded 27.1 inches, but that's an average. Drifting meant some areas had inches, while others had feet. The town of Natick, west of Boston, reported 54 inches in one measurement. Worcester, inland, hit 33 inches. But the numbers don't capture the texture. This wasn't fluffy snow. The wind compacted it into dense, heavy masses. Shoveling became nearly impossible. Lift a shovelful and your back screams. Do it 100 times and you collapse. Do it 1,000 times and you risk a heart attack. Multiple deaths were attributed to snow shoveling. Men in their 40s, 50s, 60s, prime age for undiagnosed heart conditions, went outside to clear their driveways and collapsed. Neighbors found them hours later, half buried in the snow they'd been trying to move. The power outages created cascading failures. No electricity meant no heat for most homes. Oil furnaces and gas furnaces still needed electric ignition and blowers. No electricity meant no pumps for municipal water systems. No electricity meant no refrigeration, which meant food spoiling even as the world outside was a freezer. Hospitals switched to backup generators. Most worked, some didn't. One hospital in Worcester lost its generator after 6 hours. Staff had to manually ventilate critical care patients. Nurses and doctors took turns squeezing breathing bags for 12 hours straight until power was restored. By late Tuesday, February 7th, the worst finally eases. The death toll is catastrophic. Nearly 100 people died. The American Red Cross logged 99 deaths in Massachusetts and Rhode Island alone. Some freeze in their cars, some collapse shoveling snow, some drown in coastal flooding. Some die in fires started by desperate heating attempts. 4,500 injured. Frostbite, broken bones, heart attacks, trauma. Thousands of cars abandoned. Thousands of homes damaged. Thousands of lives disrupted. Material cost, over $520 million in 1978 money. Some estimates push it close to $1 billion when you include economic losses, snow removal, coastal damage, lost productivity. But the real cost isn't dollars. It's the mother who lost her son on Route 128. The fisherman who didn't come home, the family whose house collapsed under snow, the child who watched the ocean take everything. One of the best-known tragedies was 10-year-old Peter Goslin in Braintree, who disappeared during the blizzard. His body was not found until about 3 weeks later. Melvin Porter, 54, collapsed while shoveling his driveway in Newton. His wife watched from the window. By the time she got outside, he was dead, heart attack. The snow he was moving buried him before the ambulance, unable to reach the house, could arrive. The Agneta Marie, a fishing boat out of Gloucester, went down with 3 crew members. The boat was heading back to port when the storm hit. The captain radioed a distress call, then silence. The boat was found weeks later, capsized on the ocean floor. The individual stories are what make the statistics real. Each of those deaths was someone's child, parent, spouse, friend. Each of the 4,500 injured has a story of pain, survival, recovery. And the trauma extended beyond physical injury. Children who lived through the blizzard developed anxiety disorders related to snow. Adults who were trapped developed claustrophobia. Families that lost members never fully recovered. When the wind finally dies, silence. Eerie, heavy silence. No cars, no planes, no voices, just snow. Boston looks like a different planet. Streets are canyons. Buildings are buried to the second floor. Cars are lumps under white hills. You can't tell where the road is. You can't tell where the park is. Everything is erased. Mayor Kevin H. White holds a briefing. This is the worst natural disaster in Boston's history. We need everyone's help. If you can dig, dig. If you can't, stay inside. Do not drive. Do not block plows. We will recover, but it will take time. Governor Dukakis mobilizes every resource. National Guard, Army Corps of Engineers, every plow in the state, every loader, every dump truck. They work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It takes a week to clear major roads, 2 weeks for neighborhoods. A month before life feels normal, schools close for a week, some for 2, businesses lose millions, shipping stops, ports freeze, but people dig. Neighbors help neighbors. Strangers pull strangers from snowbanks. The anger, the frustration, the politics, all of it disappears under the weight of survival. When everything breaks, people remember what matters. The cleanup operation was staggering in scale. Massachusetts deployed over 4,000 National Guard troops, the largest state mobilization since World War II. They brought heavy equipment, front-end loaders, dump trucks, military transport vehicles with snow chains. But even that wasn't enough. The state contracted private construction companies. They brought bulldozers, backhoes, anything with tracks that could move through snow. Boston alone removed an estimated 7 million cubic yards of snow, enough to fill a football stadium 75 feet deep. Where do you put 7 million cubic yards of snow? You can't just pile it on sidewalks. You can't dump it in rivers. It's full of salt, sand, oil, debris. Boston created massive snow dumps, parking lots and open spaces designated for mountains of plowed snow. Some of those mountains lasted until June. The economic impact rippled for months. Logan Airport was closed for 3 days, the longest closure in its history. That meant canceled flights, stranded passengers, lost cargo, lost revenue. Businesses lost productivity. Employees couldn't get to work. Retail stores lost sales. Restaurants lost customers. The fishing industry took a particularly hard hit. Boats destroyed, docks damaged, processing facilities flooded. Gloucester alone lost an estimated $20 million in boats and equipment. Insurance companies paid out hundreds of millions in claims. Roof collapses, flood damage, lost merchandise, vehicle damage. Many small businesses never reopened. The storm didn't just damage buildings, it ended livelihoods. Why didn't they see it coming? They kind of did. Forecasts warned of a big storm, but in 1978 the tools were blunt. Satellites showed clouds, not the fine details. Computer models were rough. Predictions were smart guesses, not guarantees. And even when the warning is real, people still have to move. At 3 p.m., it still looked like just snow. Bosses wanted you to stay until 5. Rent was due, so thousands left at the normal time and got trapped. Could the government have done more? Maybe, but there's a hard limit. Plows can't work if cars block the roads. Rescuers can't reach you when the wind is near hurricane force, and visibility is 0. Sometimes physics wins. The real problem wasn't only prediction, it was speed. The storm intensified and stalled faster than anyone could react. By the time it was obvious, the highways were already parking lots. There was also culture. New England pride says, don't overreact. Schools stay open. Stores stay open. We can handle it. That mindset worked for normal storms. This one punished it. What changed after 78? They learned 4 simple rules. 1, close roads early before cars get stuck. 2, stockpile supplies, salt, fuel, food, water. 3, communicate clearly. No soft language, no sugarcoating. 4, give people a plan, what to do if they're stranded. After that, emergency protocols got tighter. Forecasting got better. Roads were pre-treated and closures became proactive. Building standards improved, and shut it down stopped sounding weak and started sounding smart. And the memory? Ask anyone who lived through it and you'll hear the same thing. You never trust winter the same way again. You keep blankets in the car. You leave early when the sky feels wrong. You listen when officials say, stay home. Because 78 taught New England one brutal lesson. Winter doesn't negotiate, it just arrives. And when it does, you either prepare or you pay.